Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a lovely, lovely Tuesday afternoon. On this episode of the Kosher Intuitive, we're going to get in today to the topic is rabbis and the problem with them. More specifically, what is my problem with them? Anyone who follows me knows that I have expressed major issues with these people. I don't like how a lot of things are ran by the rabbinical community. I don't like how the rabbinical community involves themselves in the lives of people, in a sense where I have seen in my 22 years of exposure to Orthodox Judaism, which is more than half my life, I have seen some pretty awful behaviors committed by the rabbinical community to the greater Jewish populace. And I think that the Jewish people who have had no issues with rabbis find it difficult to understand why the Jewish people who find it very difficult to trust the rabbinical religious community, they sometimes struggle to understand why that goes on. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you some reasons why rabbis need to be reminded of where their role should start and where their role should finish. And share with you some of the experiences that I've had, and over the years, over the last, you have to remember, I've been coaching for 21 years. In 21 years, you see all kinds of situations. It's just what I don't think could have ever prepared me in this line of work was just to the level the rabbinical community has interfered negatively with the lives of the greater Orthodox population. Now, let me explain and give some backstory for those who watch the show who don't really understand what the role of a rabbi is. Now, in Judaism, you have different denominations of Jews. In the Orthodox community, the role of a rabbi is far more serious in the lives of the congregants in the communities than in any other community. For example, in the Reform and Conservative Jewish community, the rabbi is really not someone that is involved in your regular life. Your typical Reform or Conservative Jew probably doesn't have a very personal relationship with their rabbi of their congregation. It's just not the way in which their communities have been built. they adhere to laws. There's differences to what Reform and conservative and Orthodox Jews even believe, which is why the role of a rabbi in a Reform congregation would be far different than the role of a rabbi in a Orthodox congregation. So the reason Orthodox Jews have so many problems with rabbis is because they're in a daily environment where rabbis are essentially more a part of their daily lives. In our schools, for example, rabbis are given positions of teaching, for example. So in the life of an Orthodox Jew, a rabbi, we have rabbis everywhere. And I have learned in the 22 years that I have been present in the Orthodox Jewish community that the presence of a rabbi can be a very good thing and very helpful. I've also learned, unfortunately, more often than not, the involvement of a rabbi can be very toxic, and the involvement of the rabbi is usually there to service the interest of one party more so than the other. And it is usually the role of the rabbi to service. Looks like we're having some connection issues again. It is usually the role of the rabbi to service the interest of the man over the interest of the woman. That is usually the role of the rabbi. I'm not saying that it can't be done the other way around. It can. But usually the gentleman in the equation obtains the rabbi who would be more powerful in the situation, while the woman in the situation obtains the rabbi who would be, let's say, less powerful. And that's usually how the woman and children gets railroaded. For example, I am going to share with you all some things that have happened to me with a rabbi. So you can't say that I don't know what I'm talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And, these situations that I've seen in the 21 years that I've been coaching, I've seen in my own life. 12 years ago, when I got divorced, a rabbi was put in place. And, I got divorced from the nicest thing I could say about my ex-husband is a wild animal. Okay. It was a totally manipulated situation. I was totally thrown under the bus. And what these people did was recruited a rabbi that I've known and still know to this day. And he's very aware of how I feel about him. I've made that no secret. And this rabbi that I knew was put quietly in the picture to manipulate the situation so that there would be a handler, so to speak, put in place of me to protect my ex-husband from ever seeing a day of court in child support court. which to this day, my ex-husband has never seen a day of child support court. He sends $200 to this rabbi who then zells the money to me. And the way they orchestrated this 12 years ago was that this rabbi would be the monkey in the middle to make sure that the boys have everything they need. This rabbi has failed in spades. He's failed my children in spades, and it's become clear to all parties involved over the last 12 years that this rabbi's position, at least in our situation, is to only protect the integrity of my ex-husband, who was an adulterer who committed domestic violence, on top of the fact he's a gambling drug addict. I mean, the Torah, that these rabbis should be holding dear, would even go as far as to categorize my ex-husband as a rasha, an evil person. Like, if you would actually categorize my ex-husband to the laws of the Torah, not Yael's laws, the laws of the Torah, my ex-husband would be a person, if the Beis HaMikdash were standing today, that we would be allowed to kill. I'm serious. Now, the rabbi that was entrusted in this situation has made sure, though, that this rasha of an ex-husband of mine has never seen not a day of child support court, and has tried to use every halacha in the world until I realized something. These rabbis will hide behind halacha, violating Hashem, our God, to do repugnant, awful, despicable things that are violations of really the laws of humanity and human decency, and then expect us, the good, brokenhearted people, to swallow this and say, oh, it's okay that I was victimized because Rabbi such and such said the halachas of blah, blah, blah bullshit said it's okay for them to victimize me because the Gemara says, stop. This is where the rabbis have lost and continue to lose humanity. And not only have they lost humanity, continue to lose humanity, but I believe with every fiber of my being that when the Messiah shows up, they are going to receive punishment beyond anything human imagination can fathom. Okay? At what point do we have the response? Thank you, Tzipora. And and I'm sorry that we have to go there, Tzipora. I'm sorry for it. But we have given these despicable men so much power. And to see what these men have done to the integrity of our God is blasphemous and sinful. And hellfire should rain upon them for what they have done. I have a very hard time as a person who knows the Torah, who learns the Parsha regularly, who studies halacha. Okay? I know halacha. I don't need Rabbi such and such to tell me the halachas of just about anything. All right? Why in hell do we have countless ways to make a cup of tea on Shabbat as if it is something the hell worth fighting about? And we don't have halachas around protecting children. You mean to tell me there were so many fences needed to put around a Torah, but no rabbi saw fit to build fences around our children who are ultimately the ones who are inevitably going to follow the Torah? We treat them like garbage. We treat their mothers like garbage. Why? The amount in 21 years of coaching of sexual abuse I have seen. Thank you so much, Rebecca. You are incredible for still being here. Thank you, sweetheart. The amount of sexual abuse that I personally have heard, just me. I'm not talking about all the other coaches, just me, have heard in 21 years of coaching. One day, I had to sit down, okay, in my meditation, and I did like a calculation if I had to bust down. We talked about it on the show yesterday, but I had to bust down calculations of percentages of, excuse me, my nose is just itching. I'm outside. I'm enjoying the last few days of beautiful weather here in Detroit. For those of you who don't know about Michigan weather, we could be under 20 feet of snow tomorrow. So I'm trying to enjoy the sunshine while I can, getting thingies in my nose. What I can't have a hard time grappling with is, I would say in 21 years of business, about 75% of clients I've seen have been sexually abused. I have heard of stories of rabbis sexually assaulting children, the children reporting the sex abuse, the parents going to the rabbis, not the police, taking the criminal to a Beis Din, which is a rabbinical court, and having not only the police never called, justice for the victim never received, but the victim having to give an apology to the married man who sexually assaulted him because he allegedly seduced the victim, the child victim. This is where our rabbinical courts in Brooklyn are at. All right. This is why I am so angry. Just Sunday, as in today is Tuesday, yesterday was Monday, the day before that was Sunday. All right. Just so we set the scene of where we're at in our days. All right. I was speaking to a rabbi, a prominent rabbi right here in the Detroit community, a rabbi who holds congregation, a rabbi, for crying out loud, that people in the Detroit community go to for counsel and support. And I was trying to explain to this man a complicated situation of a dynamic between two people where one party tried to kill the other party with vehicular manslaughter. And we know this, right? The rabbi knows this. He's been aware of the situation for almost 2 years. The party who tried to kill the other party, they were married, excuse me, is sitting in prison right now for trying to kill the other party into whom he was married in a vehicle. I spoke to a rabbi about this, and the topic of one of the parties being a sex addict came up, to which the rabbi actually said to me, well, if she's a sex addict, why'd she get divorced? I said, Rabbi, whatever the hell his name is, because he tried to kill her. This is a prominent rabbi in the Detroit community, for fuck's sakes. Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen, the levels of idiocy, straight out sinful idiocy, that we are dealing with within the rabbinical community? We are dealing with idiocy, straight out stupidity. And because these men have managed to excel in Talmudic studies, for some fakakta reason, we have allowed them to educate us in all areas of life, and that needs to stop. In no way are these people qualified, capable, or for Christ's sake, smart enough to teach us most of anything. And I am at a point where I've seen so much failure from the rabbinical community that I can't be quiet about it anymore, when I have seen this to a level of just, it's causing mental illness. Letting these people believe, letting these people have power over our lives is causing mental illness, because the rabbi is going to tell you the advice that best services the rabbi, not you, the rabbi. The rabbi doesn't care if the rabbi's advice helps you or not. The rabbi needs to tell you something that makes the rabbi right and the other party wrong. Okay? That is the system in which is operating things today. Most rabbis, we're having some connection issues again. Most rabbis are going to make sure that you, the other individual, are always at a disadvantage. They are going to make certain that you, the other party, are always in a position where you feel less than, where you feel lower than, and less smart. First of all, if halacha pertained to every area of life, which it does not, we would have halachot that pertained to every area of life, which we do not. Okay? We do not have halachas regarding how to care for a rape victim. We don't. We do not have halachas on how to care for a child that has been molested. We don't. We have certainly a number of halachas pertaining to how to make tea on Shabbat, which is obnoxious. But what we do have going on is rabbis trying to grab at other halachas that are not relevant to heinous crime and like squeeze them in to situations of heinous crime where they do not belong. Okay? Any rabbi that knows me knows there are two words that are going to get you in very big trouble with Yael Meisels. There's a few slags that'll get you in big trouble with me. If you dare try to talk to me about Lush and Hara, especially if I am discussing a victim, I would find the nearest bridge if I were you and jump off it. Because that is a wiser move than having a conversation with me about Lush and Hara. Okay? Them's fighting words to me, and I am the last person in the world you want to discuss Lush and Hara with. Okay? I have no tolerance for that conversation. More people have died because of the topic of Lush and Hara than probably AIDS in the global community throughout the history of the world. Probably. In fact, if I had to gamble at a blackjack table and say, in the history of the earth, okay, who has died, more people from the misunderstanding of what is Lush and Hara and the consequences of the misunderstandings of Lush and Hara, or AIDS in the history of the entire planet, I would put my money that more people have died probably from the misunderstanding of the halachas of Lush and Hara than of AIDS in the history of the world. Okay? That is what I believe. If I were going to walk into a casino and place a bet on what has killed more people, the misunderstandings of Lush and Hara, I believe, have killed more people than AIDS has. Where has common sense gone? We have had a rabbinical community up until extremely recently that did not want you to call the goddamned police. Why was it until extremely recently the rabbinical community did not want you to call the police? Now you realize it only became permissible to call the police with the Me Too movement and the Jewish Community Watch. It only became permissible then. In my lifetime, you did not call the police on a fellow Jew. There is major problems that exist within the rabbinical community. And we, the people who attend the synagogues, who attend the yeshivas with our children, we dictate how much power these people have by how much power we give them. And any rabbi stepping to this situation knows they have very little power here. That I will not be manipulated with false interpretations of halacha that prevent me from living a decent lifestyle and prevent me from doing right with what is considered human decency. Halacha will not prevent me from being a decent person. What I have a problem with here is, why is it that laws that are allegedly so holy can prevent people from being decent human beings? Because we're seeing it all the time. I have a feeling that when the Messiah shows up, we're going to get a lot of clarity on that. Because I'm not sure that everything these rabbis have done was actually in our best interest and in Hashem's, to glorify Hashem with the highest of praise. I no longer believe that after seeing the inside of the system. When I have to explain to a rabbi just this past Sunday, 48 hours ago, why someone who's sitting in prison for manslaughter should have been divorced by his wife, we have a long way to go. We are giving rabbis the power to make medical decisions. We are giving rabbis the power to make psychiatric decisions. Now, listen, there has been times in my life that I have called a rabbi or two before I make a big life decision. But again, the rabbis that I will speak to for these questions are not idiots. They're the real deal. They are genuinely concerned about the state of Klal Yisrael, and they have more going on than rabbinical knowledge. You know, as a person with hashkama to do intuitive work and energy work, you know, it is of very little value to me that I have hashkama. It really is. And I'll explain why. You're asking a human being that does not experience rare human phenomena. The rabbi who gives me hashkama does not experience rare human phenomena. He does not have rare abilities. He wouldn't know. He doesn't experience what I go through. Why in the world am I of higher value because a rabbi, you understand, who doesn't go through what I go through is willing to tell you that I'm okay? It's ludicrous. These people don't know. They don't know because they don't have it. They don't have any deeper understanding because they don't have rare abilities. A person, and I don't care how rabbinical they are, a person without rare abilities does not understand the life, mind, or otherwise of a person who has them. They will never understand. Now, a person with rare abilities does understand the life of a person who doesn't have them. You know why? Because we live in a world full of people that don't have rare abilities, and we, those of us who have them, had to be scared to death of those of you who don't have them most of our lives. So we're very aware of how the world works for you people. Okay? We understand you. You don't understand us. That's how that goes. And I get really tired of having that conversation because people are like, oh my God, who's the rabbi? La, la, la. Can I talk to your rabbi? I'm like, what is my rabbi going to say to you better than I can? What a redundant and wasteful conversation. Seriously. So a rabbi can say, oh, the halacha says. I don't care what the halacha says. We need to be a little bit over what the halacha says. Because what I find a little ridiculous is we're a nation of people that have been begging for thousands of years for our Messiah. Can anybody watching this podcast tell me where in the F-U-C-K the goddamned Messiah is? Does anyone else know? Is there a Messiah Location Foundation that I don't know about? I've done my homework to look for him. Is anybody else aware of an organized organization looking for the fucking Messiah? How is it that a group of people in exile, as long as we have, that has a goddamn rabbi for everything else, doesn't have a rabbi to locate the goddamn Messiah? That's shameful. Shame on all of you for that. That is shameful. I will live every moment of every day looking for the Messiah if I have to, because I see none of the rest of you are going to do it. But you have a rabbi that specializes in everything else? That is goddamned ridiculous to me. More sex going on in a mikveh than a fucking Motel 6. Where is your Messiah? Do any of you know? It's ridiculous. And any convert or anyone even seeking to convert to this religion should be asking the same kinds of questions. And what are these rabbis pushing these people away for? They can't even answer these questions. This dork Baruch Solomon made a video on the Messiah. I was praying I would learn something. Nope. He spoke to some of the most brilliant Torah minds in the world and asked the most silly questions one could imagine. Nothing thought-provoking, and no new information was given. I guess this is what happens when you have a religion governed by rabbis and not really governed by God. Who really is running Judaism, God or rabbis? I'm not so sure anymore. But I'll tell you one thing. When the Messiah finally does show up and God does have a thing or two to say, I guarantee you it's not going to be pleasant. As an intuitive person, and I am really not interested in what any of the yees of little faith that don't believe in visions think. Not interested in those idiots. As an intuitive person, what I firmly believe is coming for us with the reveal of the holy Mashiach is a firestorm on a level that no person will ever question who God is and what God wants from humanity ever again in the history as long as the earth is a physical planet. I do not believe upon the arrival and the reveal of the Messiah there will ever be room on this planet again for human indecency. And the level in which the human indecency has gone on by the rabbinical community is repulsive. Now, you want to stick up for Rabbi such and such, one isolated person, that's your business. But don't you dare, considering what I've done for the last 21 years of my life, come to me and tell me about these rabbis. I'm not the one. I don't want to hear about the good thing one good rabbi did, because not one of your rabbis have redeemed this nation. Not one. I haven't seen a mountain move. I haven't seen any oceans split in half. I haven't seen any trees bend. And until that happens, I'm just frankly not impressed. I am tired of the good deeds of these rabbis being exacerbated as if they're holy. They're not. They're people. I'm tired of the lies. I'm tired of the bullshit. And I'm tired of cleaning up the messes that these rabbis make in the lives of people. And you understand, I wish to God, whatever major event we're on the cusp of would just happen already, because there's so many brokenhearted people. Every day, today I got a call from a victim who was victimized 29 years ago, and they were just ready to talk about it today. Today. That was today's conversation. It had nothing to do with clergy. And I'm just like, I've got to be on top of my game 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. I even have a special ring for my clients. I call it the suicide ring. If they call 3 times in a row, I know they're suicidal, and I answer for Pekuach Nefesh. I'm serious. Doesn't happen very often, thank God, but it has. I'm tired of having to save lives because a rabbi tried to destroy a person. I'm tired of it. I want revenge. I do. I want revenge. I see no reason to give these people any respect anymore until it's been earned. When someone tries to introduce me to a rabbi now, I'm like, oh, very nice. You're nothing special to me until you prove yourself to be special to me. I can't look at these people ever again with the esteem that I had for them at 18, 19 years old. I can't. You know, even when I look back at my first marriage, okay, to a gentleman who I married him when I was 22, he was 24, and he was learning in Kollel in the Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva. So there's a lot about your girl Yael Meisels y'all don't know. All right, I lived the Kollel life, so you people are not going to tell me anything about nothing, okay? And as I was married, and I'm coaching, I'm a life coach, all right? And I'm married to this rabbinical student, and in the Darach of the Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva, they have a one-track solution for all of these people. And of course, it doesn't work for all of these people. Of course, it doesn't. It doesn't. And my ex-husband, I noticed, had autism. And I thought, oh God, there's no way that we are going to, and we went on 10 dates, got engaged, got married. We were Shomer Nagia, not in inappropriate words spoken between the two of us. Married or not, we were very appropriate people. And when I, being married to somebody who desperately wanted to be a Kiruv rabbi, who had autism, in a very, straightforward and stark rabbinical school program. And I'm looking at this going from having a background in Kiruv, having a background in coaching, having worked for Aisha Torah, knowing what it's going to take to be a Kiruv rabbi, knowing like, oh my God, there's no way this guy is ever going to be the rabbi he thinks, this yeshiva is telling him he's going to be. And even though he was a kid with money, parents with money, a parent with money can't buy you a rabbi career. They might be able to buy you a rabbiing degree, but they can't buy you a congregation that's going to vote you in and keep you there. And, this was a man who was so laser focused to the derech of the Havetz Chaim Yeshiva and could not, because of, the autism. And I'm not saying, my apologies to anyone with autism, but anybody who knows, with autism, some of the mannerisms is they will get very consumed with a one way of doing things and can't deviate from that pattern, which is fine if you're able to live within a very regimented lifestyle. But unfortunately, in a kiruv, which is a word for Jewish outreach. For those of you, I keep saying this word, I apologize. Not everybody watching the show or who will watch it on YouTube later knows what kiruv means. Kiruv means Jewish outreach. So what my first ex-husband, who is not Usher and Zephaniah's father, let me make that very clear. While he was not the man for me, there is nothing, he is not a bad person. We certainly wish him well. God take care of him in all his endeavors. But, this gentleman wanted to do Jewish outreach with autism. And the problem that, again, I don't judge, I observe. So I'm watching him in in all of these different settings with people who, watching him in all of these different settings with people that, in some cases are not religious. In some cases are Chabad. In some cases are miscellaneous Hasidish. And this person who has this lit fish mentality, which is lit fish is someone who is not only not Hasidic, but has no room for Jewish mysticism, which is obviously not a good fit for me. I am the queen of Jewish mysticism. So, I don't even believe we should paskin like Gemara. I think we should paskin like the Zohar. So there you go. That would be one of the biggest fundamental reasons why this gentleman and I could not remain married. But, he could not sit in a room with someone with a rabbinical figure who had a differing opinion than him. How in hell? And that's because of the autism. It's again, no disrespect, but it is a known, trait of people on, that are on the spectrum that sometimes have a very difficult time, congealing with someone who has a differing opinion than they do. And I remember thinking to myself, even if his filthy rich parents buy him a house in an out-of-town community, and do their best to buy their way into making this dream come true for him. They can't put him in the front of a congregation where you have an eclectic group of people that are all going to have their own thoughts and feelings, probably different than his, and they can't buy him this job. And when I realized at the ripe old age of 23 and a half that my machatanim could not buy my husband at the time his job, I was like, oh, we need a new plan. We need a new plan, because you cannot be a pulpit rabbi. You are never going to succeed unless you want to have a badafka, specifically Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva brand synagogue, where people are coming for this specific kind of Judaism. They only want this kind of Judaism. This is the Judaism they're coming for. Because if you make a synagogue where all feel welcome, and then they realize this is what they're getting as a rabbi, oh, they're not going to come, and you're going to have no paying members. And ultimately, this was one of the contributing factors to why we did not stay married. Because as he was in Kollel, learning whatever hoodly blop they teach at Chavetz Chaim, which is probably garbage, I was learning real Judaism at home. And I was like, oh no, we can't paskin like Gemara. We're going to paskin like the Zohar. And I'm too Hasidic to be here. We're leaving. I'm leaving with this cat. Goodbye. It was a nightmare. But I realized that, even in the Chavetz Chaim Yeshiva, if you have the money, they will sell you this dream regardless of whether or not you are capable of living this dream in tangible, practical reality. If you can pay the fee, they'll sell you the goods. Why? I can't believe they let him be there as long as they did. Anybody could look. I mean, I remember having conversations with some of his friends' wives saying, there's no way we're going to be able to do Jewish outreach. There's no way. They're going to take one look at this situation and say she's the rabbi, not him. It's just when you realize what a business of humanity control and the rabbinical community really even is. I mean, when I worked for Aish HaTorah, okay, the live today, the podcast is about the issues that exist within the rabbinical community and what we need to do to basically get rid of these problems. I'm just lost my train of thought. Let me go back there. So when I worked for Aish HaTorah, when I was about a year, for a little bit less than 2 years, I noticed something. We were an organization for young Jewish professionals in their 20s and 30s. And I'm going to keep it 100 with you people. This organization put major emphasis on what you physically looked like. major emphasis on your name, what kind of money you had. There was a girl I used to work with at this organization who was, long and lean, beautiful girl, got married very young. And you could see she was trying to leave the organization. And the problem was, it was bigger than she was good at her job. There was clearly, I'm going to use the word inappropriate. There was clearly an inappropriate attraction to her from my boss at the time. And I don't believe that this girl is anything other than a victim. And I don't think anything inappropriate, bedafka, happened. And, but it was clear to me that as the beautiful girls, the beautiful young thin girls in the office were getting married and wanting to inevitably move on from their position at Aish Torah into positions that did not require them to be as involved with partying with the public. This particular woman, Aish Torah, this particular manager at Aish, or director at the time, had a hard time letting go of, and would not promote other single people who were more readily available to do this job, because at the end of the day, we were not as thin as these other women were, and he just did not deem us as beautiful as these other women were. And it became a problem because, as you know, as many people who watch the show know, Orthodox Jewish girls get married young to Orthodox Jewish boys, and then they become pregnant. And when you have a 21-year-old girl in the Orthodox Jewish circle, even if she does attend college, her peers are not getting married and getting pregnant. They're going to frat parties and dancing their tushy mushies off. These are not young ladies that have a whole bunch in common. And Aish was having prim and proper frum young ladies being madrichas, which is like counselors of these elaborate trips where, girls were partying and all sorts of business was going on, which was showing me, these were the girls that in the office that were thinner, that were, being deemed more prettier, and they were ultimately being used for these jobs. Whereas there were other women in the office who had grown up in these environments, who would have been more comfortable in these environments, known how to handle themselves socially in these environments, but just weren't as thin and deemed as beautiful as these other women, and therefore had no problem putting the firmer girls in a more uncomfortable situation based on how they looked, rather than someone more experienced, like myself or a couple other of my colleagues, that would have been far better fits for these particular jobs, because we simply, weren't, we didn't win the beauty contest, so to speak. The problem here is that this show topic of how rabbis are problematic and how they've been problematic could go on for hours. You see what I mean? I try to cap the show at an hour, but the bottom line here is that any rabbi that tells you not to involve the law is devoid of human decency. We cannot continue to allow these people to be devoid of human decency. And we should be exposing the individuals devoid of human decency. I mean, again, countless people have died from suicide or other trauma-related deaths, heart attack, drug abuse, drug overdose, all of these things that are brought on by sex abuse, because someone didn't want to speak Lush and Hara. Speak Lush and Hara if it means you're going to save somebody's life. Why does this even have to be a topic of conversation? And why don't we have halachas specifically surrounding how to deal with hellacious sexual-based crime against men, women, and children? You want to tell me this is new? It's not new. It's not new. Sex crimes are not new. We're going on. In fact, why did the flood of Noah even happen? Why? Because people were perverted and gross. So you want to tell me sex crimes were new? Like, I was learning something yesterday with a friend where after God had destroyed the world and God said, Noah was like, God was like, basically, it's too late. You should have prayed for people. I pray for humanity every day. That God heal the good, take care of the good, and genuinely protect by any measure at all costs, by whatever means necessary, the good people of the earth. But for the evil, wicked, and the stupid, and only God knows who those people are, you know what I mean? Like, really, those people, whoever they are, get rid of them. Get rid of them. Why heal these people? I don't see a purpose to it, and I'm not going to pray for it anymore. I just feel like we have given so much of our lives and mental energy to our rabbis. We have held so much regard to what they think, and we have gotten such little loyalty in return that we have to start asking questions. Who's going to be in my corner? Do you protect victims? Really? Are you going to stand on the side of the righteous and on the side of the good and human decency? Or are you going to comb through the Gemara like a filthy rat, trying to find a halacha to cover up your egregious behavior? These are the questions we need to be asking our religious clergy and demanding answers from them. And we need to demand the answers out of these people that we like and not be afraid to annihilate those who give us answers that we don't like. I'm going to wrap it up. As always, thank you guys for, number one, I thought about this. I've had because it's Chol Hamoed, I've had some extra time to get some shows in. For those of you who watch this podcast and listen to it, God bless you. That is so nice of you. But I really, from the bottom of my heart, Thank you all for giving me a career, for giving me a voice, for believing me and believing in me, and to the degree that you all have given my life a purpose, I cannot tell you. There are days that I'm like, you know what? I know I have to be on my game today because I know I'm going to have to fight for somebody today. And becoming that person and finding that strength within myself so I can give that strength over and be brave for someone else has saved my life. And you people who watch this show, who use these services, who have befriended me, who have supported me, have given my life purpose and meaning, that you should only be showered with love and blessing by the Lord, because that is what you've done to my life. And I can never, ever, ever thank you people enough for that. So thank you beyond words, because I don't know when the time will permit for me to hop on and do another podcast. So I cannot thank you enough. And for the funnier side of things, coming soon, I'm formed a comedy group called the Jewish Illuminati. We've got some of the funniest Jewish comedy coming out. You people have probably are ever going to see. Just downright shenanigans. If you guys liked the comedy The Office, you are going to love the Jewish Illuminati. If anyone wishes to book a private session, please reach out on any of the socials. All consultations are free. Thank you so much. God bless you. And like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.